Okay, so thank you everybody so much for taking your time to join us. A big hello from sunny Southern California. And tonight we'll go over the next steps for international admitted students to Claremont Graduate University. My name is Brian Haurigi. I am the Director of International Recruitment and Admissions. And joining me is...
Hi everyone, my name is Ariel Carpenter. I am the Director of Student Life and International Services.
Great. So let's get right into it. Today's presentation, we'll go over different visa types. We'll go over the visa process and then talk a bit about the things you'll need to do to come to Claremont and to the US. I'll talk a bit about our International Scholars Program for those of you who were admitted and might have to attend that program. Then Ariel will talk a bit about orientation. We'll go into student services, and then hopefully we can give you some tips and helpful resources, especially about jobs and internships. So I'll hand it over to Ariel to talk about the different visa types.
All right, so because we're not quite sure who is joining us today and where you are, I just wanted to give a brief overview of the types of visas that you may be interested in applying for. So in the US, there are 36 types of non-immigrant US visas. And of those visas, the most common for CGU students are going to be the F1 student visa and the J1 exchange visitor visa. So on your screen, what you'll see are the different types. If you are interested in an F1 student visa, CGU will issue you what is called a Form I20. A lot of people are very familiar with the I20s, but that is the form that you will take to your visa appointment. One of the benefits for being in an F1 is that it includes what is called curricular or optional practical training, which just means that is work authorization. So for some students, you'll be able to work during your program, but for all students on an F1, you're eligible for at least 1 to 3 years of work authorization after you graduate. For J1 exchange visitors, those aren't as common, but they're more typical for students who are sponsored by their government. It's common for those students to be required to apply for a J1 exchange visitor visa. Instead of an I-20, students will get a DS-2019. As I mentioned earlier, there are other types of visas. I only really manage the F1 and the J1 visas, but if you have questions about other types of visas and the requirements, you are more than welcome to contact my office, and we'll definitely try to explain anything that you might need. So moving forward to the visa process, the first step, of course, is to be admitted to CGU. Once you've received your admission letter, you will receive an email from my office congratulating you on your admission and giving you next steps. In order to start the process to receive either your I-20 or your DS-2019, you have to submit the tuition deposit. There are three, I believe there are 3 amounts for the deposit. One that is separate for the Drucker programs, one for the Sotheby's programs, and then another tuition deposit for any other program. So check the website, because dependent on which program you're in, there will be a different cost. But in order to receive the I-20 or the DS-2019, these are the list of documents or things that we need to happen before we can send it to you. So there's an affidavit of financial support. On that affidavit, it will explain the various types of financial statements that we do and do not accept. It will also give you the amount that is necessary to show, dependent on your degree program. So for Sotheby's programs, it's a different cost than MBA programs as opposed to the executive management. So it's just important that you take a look at the affidavit of financial support. On the second page, it will show the different amounts that you have to show for. Financial statements, so for any student who is on an F1 or a J1 visa, you have to show at least 1 year of proof that you can afford at least 1 year of the cost of living here in California. So the cost of living, the cost of living is going to be, is going to include not only living expenses, but it will also include tuition, books and fees, and medical insurance. So you'll need a copy of your passport page. For those of you who are already in a U.S. institution, here in the education institution in the U.S., you have to transfer your SEVIS record to CGU. There's a process that you'll have to go through. You have to speak directly to your current international advisor to start that process. CGU has nothing to do with a transfer of your SEVIS record, so you'll have to start that process yourself. And then CGU also does not pay for shipping any immigration documents. So UEMS, eShip Global, that is an online shipping service that works with UPS, DHL, and FedEx to make sure that you get your documents. So after you receive your documents, either the F1 for the I20 for the F1 or the DS-2019 for the J1, you should schedule your visa interview with the local US embassy or consulate. It's very important that you take a look at the wait periods, because for each country and each city, there are different wait periods to schedule an appointment. So as you can see, for some of the cities in India and in Mexico, there is almost a 2-month waiting period before you can be seen. Whereas Shanghai, it's 3 days, and in Nigeria, almost a month. So you can go online to the US visa page. It's managed by our US government, and they can show you what the average wait time is for a student visa. The next step is going to be preparing for your visa application. So there is a fee involved. It's $160 that you will have to pay. You will have to bring your passport. There is an application called the DS-160. It's I don't really remember, 5 or 6 page form that you'll have to complete. You also have to bring a photo. You will have to bring the form, the I-20 or the DS-2019, whichever one is sent to you, as well as your admission letter or invitation letter. And then also proof that you can afford the cost of living here in the United States. Once you've prepared all of your visa materials, you will also have to pay what is called a SEVIS I-901 fee. So the I-20 or the DS-2019, it's generated from what is called the SEVIS database, which is how the US government keeps track of any person, any non-immigrant who comes into the US on a student visa. So you have to help maintain and manage that by paying this fee. I don't know the exact amount for the fee, but there is a website that we will send you once you receive the DS-2019.
I think it's just about 200 is what I've seen recently.
Okay, possibly.
Yeah.
I'm not positive, but we'll send a website for you to view, and then you can pay that. You have to pay that fee before you have your visa interview. So if you do not pay the fee, they will not allow you to have the interview. You'll go into the interview. Typically, interviews are maybe 5 minutes at the most. They're very short, very anxiety driven, but you'll have the interview, and then at the very end of the interview, they will actually give you the decision. So you'll either get an approval, and if you do get an approval, they will tell you, but then they will also state that they will mail your passport with the visa in it. Depending on the shipping that you paid for, you'll either receive it in like 5 days or maybe even 2 weeks. If you are denied, they will also give you a notification of it immediately. If they do not give you an approval or a denial, you are going into visa processing. And what visa processing means is that the official, had more questions and wanted to do a little more investigation on your case. So unfortunately for visa processing, there is no time limit of when you will receive a decision. We had a student last semester who waited in visa processing for up to 6 months, and she had to defer her enrollment because of that. So unfortunately, visa processing is not as clear cut Some students can receive a decision within a couple of weeks, and then others will wait up to 6 months. But typically, those are the 3 decisions that you'll receive.
Okay, so we know that this type of an interview can really, really be, a little bit scary. And, there is a lot riding on it, honestly. But our advice and the advice of the Foreign Service officers that I've spoken to who do give these interviews is just relax as much as you can. Just be sincere about why you would like to study in the U.S. So some of the things you want to make sure, and because honestly, because you might be nervous, you might even forget your own name. so calm down and just try to remember some points you want to cover in the interview, such as they might ask you about the university. So tell me something about the university. Okay. You can talk about the area, you can talk about some of the accolades, some of the ranking, or you can, talk about the professors, the faculty, and so forth. Know your program. Why are you studying this program? Because my mom or my friends told me that it's a good program to study. That's obviously not a great answer. I think the Foreign Services officers are looking for people who are truly interested in applicants who are really passionate about the programs that they're going to study in the U.S. Also, why are you studying this degree? What are your professional goals? What do you hope to do with it? What do you hope to do with it? Of course, you want to get experience in the U.S. right after you graduate, but it's also nice if the Foreign Service officer hears what you're going to do with this degree in your home country. Right? How are you going to help your home country with this degree? Okay. Some other things that the consular officials will want to know, of course, is are you enrolling into a legitimate academic program? Of course, Claremont Graduate University has been around almost 100 years, since 1925. We have great accreditations, great reputation, so you're good there. They also do want to know that you have some ties and some connections that will, kind of let them know that you have plans eventually to return to your home country.
Yeah, so if I can just make a couple notes on what Brian had just mentioned.
Go back.
Sorry. Just the main points is just to remember that, again, the visa interview is very short. So they're going to ask maybe 2 or 3 questions. And those 2 or 3 questions, what the official is trying to get at is, yes, are you going to a legitimate academic program? But also, are you planning to return home? So even if you would like to stay in the US and you want to work and you want to be here for, a couple of years after you graduate, don't let them on to that notion, because they want to make sure that you are coming back to your home country. You're applying for a non-immigrant visa, which means that your intentions are not to immigrate. So if they get any kind of feeling that you're either not actually going to study, so that's what the question, are you in a legitimate academic program? If you're actually not going to the US to study, you're going to work, or you're going to spend time with family. If they get that feeling, or if they get the feeling that you actually don't plan to come back to your home country, you want to stay in the US, those are the causes for denial, and those are the causes for the visa processing. So as best as you can, make sure that you that when you're answering questions about the university, about the degree program, about your ties to your home country, that those are very strong, because again, it's a short time to prove to one person that you're here to study, but you're also here to return back home.
Yeah, and just on the ties topic, it does happen once in a while that an officer will ask you if you have any relatives who live in the area where you're going to study. A lot of our students do, so don't be afraid of that question. Just be honest, okay? Okay, preparing for your arrival.
So once you've received your visa, hopefully you all are getting your visa approved now or in the next month or two, because you want to try to have these things secured probably at least a month before your arrival. It's very helpful as opposed to waiting to the very end. So save the dates for new student orientation. There's an international orientation on August 16th. Drucker specifically has a week-long orientation that begins on August 24th. And then there's an all CGU orientation on August 27th. I'll go into a little bit more about the differences between those three, but you will start to receive notifications and communication about all three orientations. Just know that they are separate. The next thing that you'll want to start checking in with is your department. So each department will have a program coordinator as well as what we call a student support specialist. And those staff members will be responsible for registering you for fall courses. So for instance, the Drucker School, if you're in the MBA program, or if you're in financial engineering or the finance program, you're gonna hear from Jeannie Bullard. For those of you who are in the economics program, you're likely going to hear from Lauren Copeland. So these people will be responsible for telling you what are the core courses that you need to take this semester, but also what are some of the electives, if there are room for electives for you to take. So if you haven't heard from, excuse me, if you haven't heard from your department, what I would recommend is reaching out to your admissions representative, and each program has an admissions representative, or you can reach out to my office to just request who do you need to speak with to talk about registering for courses. The next thing is immunizations and health insurance. So it is important that you make sure that you get all of your immunizations done prior to arriving to the US. CGU only requires international students to show that they have taken a tuberculosis exam, or what we also call as a TB test. That's the only immunization that we require. However, you are more than welcome to get a full physical. We do ask that you send your health records directly to the student health clinic. Please do not send them to CGU admissions or my office. That is your personal information that should go to our licensed physicians on campus. International students will also be required to enroll into our, what we call our accident and sickness plan. It is not a comprehensive health insurance plan, but it does provide you with some relief when it comes to coverages. So we will email out the plan brochure so that you can read all of the different coverages, but we will also have our health insurance broker and representatives from the IMG, which is the plan that we use. They will be here for international orientation to describe their coverages, how to use it, which facilities you can go to, how to find doctors. So we will do as much as possible to make sure that you are familiar with this type of plan and how to use it. In terms of housing, we do have on-campus and off-campus housing options. You can stay within a mile from campus at either Claremont Collegiate or Oasis. And they are within walking distance of the campus. We also have off-campus options for you. So there are local apartments also within walking distance. If you do plan to drive, then of course you'll have more options. The consortium has a real estate office that offers referral services so that you can find out what the housing options that fit your budget, what those are. There's also options for those of you who might be interested in just renting a room from a house, or you're looking for a roommate. So if you can't find what you're looking for in the on-campus housing options, then be sure to check out the real estate office and their website through the consortium. And then the last thing to, of course, finalize are your flights and airport pickups. So there are probably 5 airports within around Southern California.
Come to Ontario. That's the best. That's the closest one, Ontario, if you can.
Yeah, the most popular one, of course, is going to be LAX or Los Angeles. But I do recommend Ontario as well if you can find a flight. So LAX is great. It's a large airport, but it can be very hectic. It can sometimes be chaotic, but it's also about an hour's driving distance from Claremont. So why I suggest Ontario, and probably why Brian does as well, is that the Ontario airport is probably 10 to 15 minutes from campus. It's a much smaller airport, so very often we can, a person who is flying out of Ontario can go to the airport maybe an hour and a half before the flight and have no wait line, like don't have to wait in line for security checks or anything like that. Whereas for LAX, you would have to tack on probably an hour to 2 more hours to get through security, to deal with traffic. So LAX is, of course, the most popular ones. Most of the international flights will fly into Ontario or to LAX, but there are a few that now fly into Ontario. So I would say that if you can find a flight that is within $100 difference, fly into Ontario, because what you will spend in money for the flight to Ontario, you will save in time and probably emotions, anxiety, and all the other
Absolutely, I
things.
agree. I actually just used Ontario to fly to Asia, and it was fantastic. China Airlines does have a direct flight to Taipei. So anybody in that area, I would highly recommend that you use that airline. And it's not very expensive in compared to LAX for a round trip. So
Yeah.
that would be my recommendation if you could do that. And Ariel's absolutely right on. I think I saved a couple of hours in both directions, going to the airport and then coming back from the airport to my home.
Yeah,
so that's my recommendation.
So if you're searching for it, the code for Ontario is ONT, and then the code for Los Angeles is LAX.
Right.
There are, of course, other airports, and the smaller ones probably have the same, you'll have the same experience as Ontario, but the closest one to Claremont is going to be Ontario. So be sure to secure your flights. Try as best as possible to arrive at least a week, if not 2 weeks before classes begin. And classes do start on September 3rd. And then in terms of airport pickup, you would be responsible for transportation. So there are shared shuttles that you can use. And then we also have rideshare services like Lyft and Uber. iPlace, which is a service that we'll talk about later, they do offer a free airport pickup, but only on one day, and that is Monday, August 12th. So if you are planning to arrive early and you want to come in on August 12th, iPlace, you just have to register with them, but iPlace will pick you up from the airport without any fees. So try to get all of those things done within at least a month before you arrive. If you have any questions, please reach out to the International Services Office, your admissions team, or the student support specialist. We'll all be able to kind of respond to any questions.
August 12th, write that date down. Write it down. Of course, you could always email us if you forget. Okay, so the International Scholars Program. There are some of you who were admitted basically on a conditional admission, meaning that you were admitted to your program on the condition that you fulfilled, can we call it a pathway? Our pathway program. Okay, so Module 1 starts May 20th. So if you're planning to attend that module, you either have the visa appointment or you already have the visa, okay? If you don't have the visa appointment and you're coming from India, it's too late for Module 1, I'm sorry to say. You couldn't possibly get here with the visa wait times. So take that into consideration. Module 2, you still have a little bit of window even for some of the countries that have longer waits, but you'd really have to be motivated and get on it and work with us, okay? The International Scholars Program, we do see it as a great benefit to our students. It really does expose you and acclimate you to the American type of education. If you haven't already been exposed to it, you're going to be doing presentations, there's a lot of collaboration in the American education system. You may not be used to that, may not be used to doing so many presentations. We also have, research and a lot of writing. So this is really a good way to get not only your English language skills, but also just as a graduate preparatory program. I think it's a great entree into U.S. education. Orientation, and we'll go back to for this.
So as I mentioned, there are 3 types of orientation. So the first type is, I'll start from kind of large and then go narrow, but you have the all CGU orientation. That is for all students from all programs at CGU, and it's 1 day, and it will be on August 27th. It will introduce you to campus staff, the services, and then there will be about a 2 to 3 hour period during that day where you can meet one-on-one with your department. On August 16th, there's the international orientation. So international orientation is specific for those who have never studied or lived in the United States. So for those of you who are currently in a U.S. Education institution, you don't really have to come to international orientation. You're of course welcomed, but it's not required. But for those of you who are new to the U.S., we do recommend that you try to come in for this day. We will discuss visa regulations as well as U.S. customs. That would be helpful for any new arrivals. And then the third type of orientation that we have is the department orientation. So as I had mentioned earlier, the Drucker School has a week-long orientation, and you should be receiving information about that if you are in the MBA Financial Engineering program. The Sotheby's programs, I believe, also participate, the finance program, and executive management. If you are in any of those programs, you will be expected to participate in this orientation. But for all other programs, typically they will meet on the same day as all CGU orientation, in the afternoon for about 3 hours. And during that period is when you will learn more about the degree requirements and the department expectations. So it is encouraged, highly encouraged, that if you can, attend all 3. But if you cannot, then definitely try to be here for the all CGU orientation and the department orientation. If you do miss the international orientation, the International Services Office, the office that I work from, we will be hosting check-ins, group check-ins to go over the visa regulations, because that would be a requirement of your visa status. But otherwise, just look out for a communication that we send about all 3, but just know that there are 3 different types of orientations.
Yeah, and I think it's really great if you can attend all 3. It's really exciting. And the students are excited to be here in the U.S. and the domestic are excited to be starting their new programs. It's where you'll start to make a lot of lasting friendships. You'll also meet the faculty, and you can talk to them about their courses and so forth. And so it's really an exciting time, and I really would encourage you to attend all of them if you could.
So I'll get into some of the student services. These are some of the departments that will also be participating in orientation, but you can also reach out to any of these offices as you are waiting for classes to start if you want to connect with any students, connect with faculty or staff. So the Office of Student Life, Diversity, and Leadership, that's the office that I work in. We oversee all international services. So we will be responsible for advising all students who are on an F1 and a J1 visa, and then we will be updating CVIS records as necessary. We also manage all of our student clubs and organizations. So at this moment, we oversee and advise our Graduate Student Council, as well as 34 clubs and organizations based off of nationality, professional interest, orientation and gender, as well as race and ethnicity. So we have a couple of sports teams too. So we have a badminton team, we have a softball team. We had a soccer team last year. I don't believe that they're active this year, but our student clubs are really just based off of student interest. So if you are interested in starting a club or joining a club, then feel free to reach out to my office. If you're also interested in trying to connect with students, current students, my office would be a great office. So for those, for example, for those of you who are Chinese and Taiwanese, there is a WeChat group which we will send out a notification of. The Chinese Student Association likes to connect with all incoming Chinese and Taiwanese students, just to make sure that everyone knows each other, but also to share information. Where's the best places to shop? Where's the best places to eat? For those of you who are looking for roommates, they also can tell you or connect you with other Chinese students and Taiwanese students who are here on campus. There are consortium resources as well. So we're a part of a 7-campus consortium. So there is International Place, you will meet the staff at International Orientation. They serve all 7 campuses. So we have a large majority of international students who come from China, India, Saudi Arabia. But if you come from a country that is not highly represented, iPlace is a great place to go, because just because CGU doesn't have a large population does not mean that overall the consortium does not. So iPlace hosts coffee meetups, they have a festival, they have different concerts, they take students out on spring break and fall break. So last year they went to Santa Barbara, and then for spring break, they just came back from San Diego. So they do a lot of really fun things. We also have a chaplain's office. So there are 4 chaplains on campus of Jewish, Protestant, Muslim, and Christian faiths. And they support all of the all of the faith organizations on campus. So if you are a person of faith or no faith who is interested in religious life, we can get you connected to the chaplain's office. They host various services throughout the week. Juma prayer is popular. They have Hindu services, Christian services, Shabbat dinner, and then they also have Mass on Sunday. So just know that there is a space for those who would like to practice their religious traditions here on campus. We also have offices like the Career Resource Center, Chicano Latino Student Affairs, as well as the Office of Black Student Affairs. So there are definitely places and ways that you can connect if you are interested. And then in terms of the department, there are some departments on campus that have their own student life. So for instance, the Drucker School does have a student life office, and they will manage different events and co-curricular activities. The Department of Behavioral and Organizational Studies has a mentoring program where they match first-year students with continuing students. So you will hear more about that if you are in the DBOS program. And the School of Community and Global Health, they have a student government that's very active and keeps students engaged and involved. They also have a mentoring program. So just know that if you're looking for ways to connect even before the program begins, that you can reach out to any of these offices to find a person who can answer questions for you. And then the next slide is just on academic life. So the first part was more about co-curricular, but if you are looking for support around your academics, then know that we do have offices here on campus. There's a Center for Writing and Rhetoric. They host webinars monthly, maybe even bi-weekly. They have writing groups. They have sessions on presentations. And then they also have consultants who will work with you on papers, to review grammar, to review themes. So they are a great resource. They are also the office that manages the International Scholars Program, so the pathway program that Brian described earlier. CGU is known for transdisciplinary studies. So we do have an office here who works with the faculty to create courses. So if you are interested in transdisciplinary studies and how to use that particular approach in your research, they're a fantastic office to connect with. We have the Preparing Future Faculty program. So for those of you who are interested in teaching after you graduate, you can participate in free workshops through this program, or you can sign up for an actual certificate. They are a fantastic resource for those of you who do want to teach but maybe don't have teaching experience. And then the Career Development Office, Brian will talk a bit more in just a couple of minutes, but there are 2 career development offices. So the Drucker School has their own career development office. So they have career counselors who will work with students in that department, really starting at orientation. And then we have the All CGU Career Development Office. So again, Brian will talk about the services that they have, but also we have our library services. So for those of you who would like extra help around research, utilizing the library in the best manner, we do have research librarians on campus who are well-versed in different research topics, as well as how to do research. So we offer a lot of support here on campus. As a CGU student, you have access to all of these, and they are free for you to utilize. So feel free to reach out as you need to. And yeah, Brian will be next.
Okay, one of my favorite topics, jobs and internships. So we know you're here to take advantage of getting a wonderful education in the US, but you also have the fantastic opportunity of being able to get experience in another country. And that, of course, that looks great on your resume when you go back to your home country. International experience is always very often valued from employers. So some of the services that we offer are, as you can see, resume review and development. So we'll sit down with you, and if you already have a resume, then where our advisors will look over your resume and work on it with you. If you don't have one, then we'll help you develop it. We'll look at your cover letters, which jobs in the US will often require. Interview preparation, you'll have the opportunity to do some mock interviews with our advisors. On occasion, we'll also bring in professionals, people from companies that we have partnerships with who will come down and put you in a realistic situation where you'll dress up for the interview, and they'll be able to give you feedback at the end of that. Also, we do have an online presence, LinkedIn. We have networking events happening all the time. Some of the other things we can do for you is coaching, of course, teach you business etiquette training, negotiation skills. The office, our career development office, says you should start on day 1, but my belief is that you should start now. Before you even come to campus, you should already be preparing and looking to see what companies and organizations in your field of study exist in the area. It often does take several months to secure an internship or a job. US companies do tend to prefer experience for obvious reasons. So it would do you well to really go after an internship at some point during your program. Just some tips on how to find employment or jobs in the US. You can seek out others from your home country in the area who may own companies nearby. You can talk to people from your home country who are already employed, who have jobs here in the US, your fellow classmates, maybe classmates from other countries and the domestic students as well. You can talk to our alumni, former CGU international students who currently have jobs here in the US. You can seek out an international company who has offices in the area. So a lot of opportunity in the area. We are close to Los Angeles, so there's a lot of business in the area. We do have a platform called Handshake that we use, or that our students can enroll in, and it connects you to hundreds of employers and job postings. So from my point of view, I think we do give you a lot of opportunity, and I would say really go after that internship, and do your research prior to coming onto campus. Okay, so prior to day 1, okay?
And what I would like to add just for Handshake, another great benefit for the Handshake platform is that Handshake is used by all of the colleges within the consortium. So it's also a great way to find out about on-campus positions. So F1 students are eligible to work on campus, and the Claremont colleges consider at least 3 of the campuses to be on campus. So for instance, Harvey Mudd, Pitzer College, Scripps College, and KGI, Keck Graduate University, are all considered on campus. So if you were to find a position there, you could work on campus for 20 hours or less. So it's not only a great resource to find jobs off campus, but it is a great tool to use if you're looking for on-campus employment. So then the last slide that we have are just some more reminders rather than insider tips, but connect with current students. They're going to be your best, they're going to be the best ambassadors, but also the best insider. Connect with current students from the same nationality, from the same program, from different interest areas that you have. And again, the offices that I mentioned earlier can help you find people who can help answer those questions, but also start the visa process early. So if you haven't received your visa yet, I would highly recommend that you get in contact with the International Services Office so that we can start getting you the immigration documents necessary. Housing is another big thing. So if you're looking for on-campus housing, I would start that process now. If you decide to wait until you arrive, sometimes it will be very hard to find housing that is close to campus, especially if you are not driving. California, it's a great place to live, but in terms of public transportation, it's very different from other countries. So public transportation is not reliable here in Claremont. I would not rely on the bus system or even taxis if that is what you are considering. So please look at housing. Please check where the housing is located in terms of distance to campus. And you'll want to start doing that sooner rather than later. And so during this process, I just encourage that you check in with your admissions representative, and they can connect you with people depending on what questions you may have. So that is the last of our presentation. We do have a couple of questions in the chat box. So if you do have a question, feel free to type it now. We'll start answering the questions that are there. We only see about 2 or 3. So the first one is asking about the International Scholars Program. I saw an option that you can submit again a new score higher than the previous score for IELTS to not be required to take the modules. Am I correct? That is correct. So if you do retake the IELTS or the TOEFL, and you do score higher, and you meet the direct entry requirement. So a direct entry requirement for the TOEFL would be, I believe, a 95 or higher. And then for the IELTS, it's a 7.0, as long as you don't have a sub-score lower than a 6.5. So if you retake it and you meet those scores, then yes, you are automatically eligible to begin your academic program, and you do not have to participate in what we call ISP. The second question, I have a visa and the expiration date is 2022. Do I need to issue a new one? That depends. So typically I would say no, but I would only say that no, you don't need a new visa if you still have an active CVIS record. So if you have an active CVIS record, then you will need to transfer your CVIS record to CGU. You will keep the same CVIS record number, and that CVIS record number is listed on your visa. So as long as the CVIS record number on your visa remains the same, then no, you won't have to apply for a new visa. If by chance you have a visa that has not expired, but you do not have an active CVIS record anymore, I would recommend that you reapply for a visa. The next question is, how often does International Student Service check their emails? I'd like to say every day, and I'm pretty sure that we do, but it may take us about 2 to 3 days to respond depending on what your question is. Typically we will respond back within 24 hours, but if you haven't received a notification from us, then just go ahead and resend the email.
CPT question.
Yeah, the next one is, can CPT be used to remote internship position? Yes, but as long as the position is a US based position, then yes, it should be fine. It does have to be related to your degree, what we call integral to your degree. And then also, if your department requires work authorization or offers a class that requires work authorization, that is when you'd be eligible for CPT. And for those of you who aren't familiar with CPT, CPT is curricular practical training. It allows students to work off campus while they are in an academic program. There are some regulations about eligibility, but when you arrive here to campus, we'll talk more about it. But it does allow you to work. The next one is
and we'll often use them interchangeably with an internship, right?
Yeah, so internships, so just think of CPT as working off campus while you're in a program. OPT, which is optional practical training, is work authorization after you graduate. So the next question is asking similarly, I have a visa with the expiration date of 2022. Do I need to issue a new one? If your CVIS record number is being transferred to CGU, then no. But if you don't have an active CVIS record, then yes, I would actually suggest that you interview or at least renew your visa. So the next question, in the transportation, what about subways and trains? Is it reliable? So yes, we do have a subway system.
We have a Metrolink, yes.
And we do have a Metrolink. But to give you an idea of what that system is like, let's say that you're at LAX, you're at the Los Angeles airport. In order to get to the Metrolink, which can take you directly to Claremont, you have to get on a bus. And that bus is called, oh, I'm forgetting it, but there's a bus. Flyaway, yes. Yeah. Flyaway, there's a Flyaway bus that can take you directly from the airport to Union Station. Right. Flyaway bus is really convenient. It's about $8, $8 US.
That's not very expensive.
But depending on traffic, it can take you about 30 minutes to even an hour to get to Union Station. Union Station, once you're there, you then have to walk all the way to the station that the Metro for Claremont. It's the San Bernardino line. The San Bernardino line runs once every hour. So if your Flyaway bus comes, then you may have to stay an additional hour. And then to get from Union Station to Claremont is another hour. So I won't say that it's not reliable. They run like clockwork. They just don't run consistently.
And they're comfortable. The Metrolink is comfortable.
Yeah.
Flyaway bus is comfortable.
Yeah, they're all comfortable, but in terms of consistency and not consistency, in terms of time, yeah. So how often they run, that is what is going to be very different, I think, for those of you who are coming from a country other than the US. So there's a great subway system. There's great well, I won't say great. There's better public transportation systems in the city of Los Angeles. There's not a great public system or transportation system in Claremont. That's more of what I'm saying. So yes, it's reliable, but if you're in the city of Claremont, so my roommate did she did this test where she needed to get somewhere that it was only 5 miles from campus. And what should have probably taken maybe 10 minutes in a car, it took her 3 hours. So that's what I mean when it's public transportation is not reliable here. It's just, it takes longer because it doesn't run as often. So the next question, when can we apply for fellowships? Do you want to answer?
Sure, yeah. So when you're admitted into your program, you are automatically considered for what's called a departmental fellowship. Now, we do have other smaller fellowships that are available, but typically our assistant director will reach out to you with these opportunities. Now, that doesn't mean, and maybe I'm giving you a little inside information here, that doesn't mean that you can't reach out to the assistant director first. And those of you out there, I'm going to say, go ahead and reach out. reach out to the assistant director that was assigned to you, and query that person about any newer fellowships that we might be offering. Okay, so just a little tip given to those who came to this presentation.
The next question is, can you explain more about the immunizations which are required? So again, we only require the tuberculosis exam. It's also called a TB test. If you're here in the US, typically most US institutions will require that you already have that. So if you've taken it at least within the last year, then you can send us those, the medical report or the confirmation of that. But if you're abroad, please check in with, ask your physician, your family physician, about a tuberculosis exam. The next question, is it allowed to do an internship outside of campus? Well, we would consider internships outside of campus to be CPT or curricular practical training. So curricular practical training, you are eligible for it, but you have to meet the requirements. So first, it has to be a requirement of your program or within a course. So for instance, the public health program has a required internship. So students who are in the MPH program, they would be eligible for CPT because it's required for their degree. There are some courses in psychology that have a field placement course, so they are required as well. So if it's required for your degree or required for a course, then yes, you are eligible to work off campus. The work that you do always has to be related to your degree. You can work part-time or full-time.
And that's a key. That's a key to remember, right? Yeah,
so you can work part-time or full-time, but it is kind of dependent on the time. So, but we can, when you're here, if you get a job opportunity, just check in with the international office and we can let you know whether you are eligible to participate. If one is coming from Ontario, is the transport service reliable from there?
I can answer that. I just did it. I did it about 2 weeks ago. I was going to call an Uber, but there was a taxi nearby, and I was tired from my flight. It takes about, 10 to 15 minutes to get to Claremont from Ontario. I guess depends on the time of day as well, but you can take the streets and it shouldn't take any more than 20 minutes, even if there's a lot of traffic. It'll cost about $30 US to do that. Uber might be a little bit cheaper, but yes, it's easy enough to find an Uber or a taxi from Ontario to Claremont.
Yeah, so then the next question, what are the important things that we have to pay for to get enrolled for the fall? Can the tuition fees be paid through installments? So the one fee that you have to pay for prior to coming to CGU is your tuition deposit. The tuition deposit, I think, is $200 or $300 for most programs. Yeah. So 300, and then I think for Sotheby's they have a higher tuition deposit, but we're not quite sure on it. So talk to your admissions representative; they'll know for certain. They'll know certainly for sure. And then, can tuition fees be paid through installment? Fantastic question. The answer is yes. You can pay through an installment plan. You can pay whether you want to do it monthly or like 4 installments per semester, or if you just need 2 installments per semester, you would set that up through the Office of Student Accounts. If you have questions, you can email student.accounts@cgu.edu and they can explain more. They also have an opportunity or have options for students to pay through a wire transfer. So if you would like to talk to them about that, typically tuition deposits not tuition deposits. The tuition deadline is not until I think September 17th or 18th, something like that. So a couple of weeks after classes start is when tuition will be due. So you'll get more notifications about that.
Right, you don't have to pay it all in one lump sum for the year, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, in terms of the WeChat group for the Chinese students who I mentioned earlier, I don't have that information right now, but I got the information from the president of the association. So that information will go out probably at least by Friday, but we'll send that out as soon as possible. The next question, could you support finding an off-campus apartment? So I can't personally help you find off-campus apartments, but what I can do is email you the real estate office that can help find or at least refer you to off-campus apartments. What they'll ask, they'll have you fill out an inquiry form and put your budget there. And with whatever budget you list, they'll help you find, or they'll refer you to different apartments that meet the requirements that you're asking for. But I will, yes, I recognize your name. So I'll send that directly to you. Or if I can try to find it online, I'll put the website in the chat box. So how long can I get an I-20 after the CVIS transfer from my current school? So if your school transferred your CVIS record today, typically we'll be able to get you an I-20 within 2 to 3 days. If you are planning to pick up your I-20 from campus, then you can come at any time. But if you want it mailed, you will have to purchase the shipment label that I've mentioned from UEMS. So if you haven't purchased that shipment label, we won't be able to mail that out to you. But as soon as you do, typically we're able to mail out your admission packet and the I-20 the very next day. UEMS promises shipment arrivals between 5 to 7 days. How do I know if my CVIS is active? If you are currently enrolled in a program or on OPT, your CVIS record should be active, but if you're not certain, then you should contact your International Student Service office. But if you are not enrolled in a academic program or you are not on OPT, then more than likely your CVIS record is not active anymore. Students majoring in information systems, how long is a STEM OPT extension? So what this student is talking about, so OPT again is work authorization after you graduate. All students on an F1 student visa are eligible for at least 1 year of OPT. So after you graduate, you can remain in the US. You don't have to apply for another visa type. You automatically are eligible for OPT for 1 year. However, students who are enrolled in a program that is STEM, technology, engineering, or mathematics related are eligible for an additional 2 years. So what we call STEM OPT means that students who are in a STEM program are eligible for 3 years of work authorization in the United States. The only STEM programs that we have at CGU are information systems and technology, our math programs, our botany program, our finance program, our financial engineering program. And I think yep, those are the only programs that are STEM designated at this time. So if you are enrolled in any of those programs, you will automatically be eligible for the STEM OPT extension. I have a sponsor company which covers my tuition. What documents do they have to produce? Is a letter of sponsorship enough? And a letter of sponsorship is perfect. So if you are being sponsored by a company or a government, typically they will write a letter stating that they are sponsoring you, and they need to state what they are covering. So if they are only covering your tuition, they need to list that. But if they're covering living expenses, your books and fees, medical insurance, and if you have a dependent, meaning if you have a spouse or children, the letter of sponsorship needs to list that as well. And the letter should be on letterhead. The next question, I've started the process of getting my I-20. However, I have not completed the process because I have yet to submit the affidavit of support form, which includes providing information on the source of funding. One of the sources is graduate assistantship. I've done the interview. I've started the process. So I don't quite see the question, but if you're asking about the process for getting an I-20, we do need all of the forms, including the affidavit of financial support, which will give us some general information about yourself, but it also has on the last page any sponsorships that you are receiving. If it's from a family or a friend or just an individual, they do have to sign that last page. So that's why it's so important that we receive the affidavit of support. The next question, should visa applications be done online or does it require a visit to the consulate after receiving the I-20? both, depending on the country. So if I understand it correctly, I believe that you do need to submit your visa application, or actually, I think you just need to, I think what it is, sorry, excuse me, you have to schedule your visa appointment. You don't need to have your visa application at that time, but when you schedule a visa appointment, you will need the SEVIS record number that will be listed on your I-20. So when your I-20 is created here, we will send an email to you that has the SEVIS record number in the email, and then we will tell you that, you know, check EMS so that you can track your package to see when it will arrive. So when you get that email, you should be able to schedule your visa appointment. At the visa appointment, you will bring your application, the check or the money, and then all the remaining documents. Can we submit additional documents a week before classes start when we arrive? It depends on what kind of documents you're talking about. So if you are talking about admission documents, so some of you may have admissions holds like transcripts, letters of recommendation, or test scores. If you're referring to that, then yes, you can submit those a week before classes begin. We actually ask that you at least submit them by the time of the add drop deadline, which I believe for this semester is, or for the fall semester is September 15th, something like that. So at least 2 weeks into the program, we ask that you try to submit all of your outstanding admissions documents. If you do not, you will have a hold on your account that will not allow you to register for the next semester's courses. And those of you who are on an F1 visa, you are required to always be enrolled in courses. So it is important that if you have any holds based on your admissions application, that you get those checked and submitted. If you are unsure if you have a hold, you can check your student portal. There is a section there that says My Holds, but you can also check in with your admissions officer and they'll be able to tell you. Should I send all the required documents to the international office before the SEVIS transfer? Yes, you definitely can, because we'll make a note that we're waiting for your SEVIS transfer. If your SEVIS record has already been transferred, but the release date is set for a month from now or 2 months from now, we will hold on to your documents. And as soon as the release the release date approaches, then we'll go ahead and start working on your I-20. If you want to wait and hold all your documents until your SEVIS record is released, you can definitely do that as well. Just let us know so that we can make a note on your record and stop emailing you monthly to say, send us your documents. But it looks like we got to the end of the chat room. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact either of us. Our contact information is listed on the slide. You can reach out to us. And again, I can say that we're pretty good at responding to emails, but if you have not received a response, just go ahead and resend it. For my office or for myself, you can reach me at international@cgu.edu. And for Brian, you can contact him at...
You just contact me directly, brianj@cgu.edu. And please, please, any and all questions you have, I'm very happy to work with you. I want to say thank you so much to everybody, and to I'll do a shout out to Marie Bianca because she met me in the Philippines, and happy to see her on the group chat, but also very excited to see the rest of you as well. And again, thanks for coming, and please do keep in contact with us, and we hope to see you very, very soon on our campus.
There was one more question that just came in. How do we get the recording? So it's my understanding that this is recorded and that it will be available probably online, and it will be likely available on the website. So we'll have more information about that. We just have to check in with the admissions team.
Right, we'll check in with it, and then we can give you that information.
All right, well, have a great day for those of you who are abroad, and have a good night for those of you who are local.
Okay, good night, everybody, or good day, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye now.